Well, I did not have this on my royal family bingo card today. Prince Harry and Meghan are moving back to Britain. Yes, back. 6 years after leaving royal life, moving to California, giving interviews about why they left royal life, making documentaries about leaving royal life, and Harry writing an entire book, which, among other things, explained why life inside the royal family had become rather impossible. They're coming home. Or at least home-ish. Because before everybody starts dusting off the balcony at Buckingham Palace, there is an important distinction here. Harry and Meghan are not returning as working royals. There are no plans for them to resume official royal duties. They won't be moving into a royal residence either. What we're hearing is that Harry, Meghan, Archie and Lilibet will relocate to a private home in Britain for an extended period beginning this month. And this isn't just Harry popping over for a charity event and flying back to California. This looks considerably more serious than that. Archie is 7 now, Lilibet is 5, and both children have been enrolled in a British school beginning in September. So when you've actually enrolled the children in school, I'd say you've moved. And I think that's probably the most interesting part of this entire story, because Harry returning to Britain isn't particularly shocking anymore. He's been coming back more frequently. But bringing Meghan and the children back changes the equation completely. For years, Harry has made clear that security was one of the major reasons he was uncomfortable bringing his family to Britain. He fought the British government in court over his security arrangements after he stopped being a working royal. At one point, he said he couldn't safely bring Meghan and the children back to the country under the arrangements he had. And yet now, they're coming. So something has changed. We don't know precisely what, and I wouldn't pretend that we do. But the decision to put Archie and Lilibet into school here certainly suggests Harry and Meghan are comfortable enough with the situation to make Britain part of their children's everyday lives. And then there's King Charles. This may actually be the most important part of the story. Charles was reportedly informed of the family's decision on Sunday, and we're hearing that the king welcomes the opportunity to spend more time with them privately, particularly, of course, with Archie and Lilibet. Remember, these are the king's grandchildren. And because Harry and Meghan have spent most of the children's lives in California, Charles has had remarkably little opportunity to know them in the way most grandparents would. Lilibet was born in California. Archie was born here, but he was still a baby when Harry and Meghan left. The children came back to Britain this summer, and Charles saw them during that visit. Now imagine the difference between seeing your grandchildren occasionally during a carefully arranged visit and having them actually living in the same country, going to school here, having birthdays here, Christmases, weekends, normal family things. And with Charles still undergoing cancer treatment, I don't think it's terribly difficult to understand why that might matter more now than it did several years ago. But before we start writing the grand royal reconciliation, there is still one rather large elephant wandering around Kensington Palace: William. The relationship between Harry and his brother appears to remain deeply strained, and that's what makes this move fascinating. Harry can reconcile with his father without necessarily reconciling with William. Charles can see Archie and Lilibet without William and Catherine suddenly spending Sunday afternoons having tea with Harry and Meghan. Those are separate relationships, and I suspect the British press is about to spend an absolutely exhausting amount of time trying to turn every car arriving at every royal residence into evidence that the brothers have reconciled. So prepare yourselves. But Harry and Meghan also aren't abandoning America. Reports say they're keeping their Montecito home. So I wouldn't describe this as them admitting California was a mistake, packing everything into boxes and reversing Megxit. That's too simplistic. This looks much more like Harry and Meghan creating a life on both sides of the Atlantic. Their American life remains, their businesses remains, their home remains, but their children are now going to have a much more direct relationship with Britain, and potentially with the British side of their family. And I actually think Archie and Lilibet may explain this better than any royal politics does. When Harry and Meghan left in 2020, Archie was a baby. They were making decisions primarily about themselves. 6 years later, they're making decisions for a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. Those children have British family. They have British heritage. Their grandfather is literally the King of Britain. At some point, keeping them thousands of miles away from that entire side of their lives becomes a decision too. Maybe Harry and Meghan simply decided they didn't want geography making that decision for them anymore. And there's one more thing. Harry has spent years telling us that he wanted a family rather than an institution. If this move truly does allow him to rebuild a private relationship with his father, without putting himself or Meghan back into the machinery of being working royals, then perhaps he's finally found some version of the compromise he couldn't find in 2020. Not half in, half out royalty. Half in, half out Britain. Which frankly sounds considerably easier. So no, Harry and Meghan aren't coming back to wave from the balcony. They're not returning to royal duties, and this isn't Megxit suddenly being erased. But after 6 years in California, Harry is bringing his wife and children back to live in the country he once said he couldn't safely bring them to. Their children are starting British school, and King Charles is apparently rather pleased about it. Whatever you think of Harry and Meghan, that's a very significant change. And something tells me we're going to have rather a lot to talk about. I'm Rose, and yes, Rose knows. This episode is powered by AI and features a synthetic host voice.